What's going on, Classic Buffalo family? It's me, Ryan, here for another episode of The Library. This is Book 8, where we talk to our first Canadian guest, Francois. Yes, he's kind of French. Hopefully you enjoy our talk. So without further ado, let's get to it.
How's it going?
It's going. You're live in Vancouver, our first Canadian guest. Man.
I am blessed to be the first Canadian guest, that's for sure.
So we were talking a little bit earlier, and I can already notice your accent. When you interact with Americans, are they like, "Oh, you're Canadian, I can hear your accent"? Does that ever get annoying?
I don't get it too much, honestly, when I went to Seattle to watch a few baseball games, but when I went down to Tampa there to watch my Lightning play, there was every person I talked to was like, "Oh, you're so Canadian. I love that accent." And I was like, "That's cool."
Man. So your name's Francois. So my guess is you have some type of French background. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. My dad's from France. My mom's from Quebec, so I'm kind of like a full-on half and half French, if you want to call it. And
Wow.
yeah, I was born in Montreal there. So
Okay, so you're born in Montreal. Is that near? That's near Quebec, or okay? Hold on. Quebec is a province, right? Or is
yes,
Quebec also a city too?
it's also a city as well, but there's a few hours, I think 3 or 4 hours away from Montreal City. But everybody who's from Montreal that's kind of like the hub, kind of like Vancouver from DC or Calgary or Edmonton from Alberta, if that makes sense, or Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. So you're born in Quebecish area. So I'm guessing your mom. You said your mom's from France, or your dad's from France?
My dad's from France. My mom's from Quebec. She's very French.
Okay, so they speak like fluent French.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you speak fluent French too?
I do, but I moved from Montreal to Vancouver, British Columbia here in Canada when I was 9 years old. So I've been losing my French a lot.
Oh, man. Okay. So you went to – okay, because I was curious with the whole Tampa Bay, connection. A lot of your teams are from Tampa Bay and stuff like that, and I guess we'll get into that. But we'll do timeline first. You're born in Quebec kind of area. What is the city like? Because being in America, I'm not really sure what's the difference between like Edmonton, Toronto, Quebec, Vancouver, and stuff like that. I'm sure Vancouver's closer to Seattle and Portland culturally, probably. But can you kind of give us any background on what it's like to grow up there and then kind of the move to Vancouver, or what was the why? What was all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I was born in Montreal, obviously, so it's a little town called Ile Bizarre, which means pretty much crazy island. My next door neighbor, I think 3 doors away, was Vincent Lecavalier, which is captain for the Tampa Bay Lightning for many years. So that's kind of why that kind of jumped the gun on that one. But when I moved, I was only 9, so small town in Montreal, obviously, but only an hour away from downtown Montreal. So I was pretty young. But when I moved here to Vancouver, I moved to Whistler first, and it's a very everybody in Canada is very different from the US, but at the same time, when I didn't really notice a huge difference when I did go down to the US. Like, people are saying that they're so nice up here, but I thought people in the States were really nice too. So I don't really know where that comes from, but we do say sorry a lot here, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, you did go. So you went to, where have you been in the U.S.? You said you went to Seattle a little bit, but you've been to Tampa too, because I remember seeing something about like the Tampa Bay Rays. You've seen them play baseball before.
Yeah, so I saw the Rays in Seattle here just because it's the closest city, U.S. city to Vancouver, but that's only about a 2-hour drive from Vancouver. So that's why a lot of people from here go down there to take in some games. And there's obviously a lot of Blue Jays fans here that go down there for the one time they come in the season. So when Rays come, it's only one time as well, drive down there. And then when I go to Tampa, obviously it's way bigger ordeal. I spent about, I think, $1,000 on the plane ticket. And then you got to get the hotel, the tickets for the Tampa game. And then you obviously want to check out Fort Lauderdale and other little places there too. So, anywhere going to the States is going to be expensive, but it's always a good time.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about how you got into the Tampa kind of culture a little bit, because you're still far. I mean, like Vancouver and Tampa, it's technically two other sides of the continent kind of thing. But you also like mentioned your neighbor was like Vincent LeCavalier, who's one of the most famous Tampa Bay Lightning players like ever. So like, was that how you were like, oh, that's so cool? Like I met him, and then like you're like, I'm just gonna go into Tampa stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was more. I definitely met some kind of big guns from the Montreal Canadiens too on that little island. For some reason, they had, I think, Guy Lafleur and a few others from the
Mm-hmm.
Montreal Canadiens. So that was a big thing. Obviously, I was only 9 or younger, so I don't really remember everything perfectly. But I remember being a huge Le Cavalier fan because 4 was my favorite number, and he was wearing 4. Um, and then when I moved to Vancouver, it was just always Tampa Bay. And then I got really into baseball 2 or 3 years ago, and just how it all works and learning the game a little more than I used to before. And I obviously jumped on the Tampa Bay Rays wagon because I just didn't want to be a Blue Jays fan. There's a lot of Blue Jays fans up here, so I'm not a big fan of those. I like being almost like the underdog or the person who's always cheering against the other team, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Are there any other like instances where you like enjoy being the underdog other than sports?
Um,
Where you're like, I was the underdog and I did something here, whether in a job or just like a
Yeah,
life
maybe
experience.
in my job right now, I work for Whistler Water, which is obviously a very small company. If you say to somebody like Evian or Fiji,
Mm-hmm.
like they'll know what that brand is right away. We go against that brand, and we're one of the smaller guys, but our water is as good or even better than their water. And when we started the
Ooh.
company, well, the company started 25 years ago, but it got a new ownership change about a couple of years ago, and I came on board as a salesperson. And those companies that I go against have so much money, so all the displays they're building and all the marketing looks so great.
Mm-hmm.
Always good to kind of be the underdog. And now I look around in Vancouver, which is pretty much our backyard. There's just a sea of blue, and because our bottle is blue, and we just pride ourselves on kind of having that right in your face. And it's taken some years, but it's always been nice to be the underdog and then coming on top.
Yeah. Are there any stories kind of growing up as a kid where you had to overcome something that you can kind of along the same vein? Are there any kind of cool stories or like, yeah, I actually overcame this difficult situation?
I didn't have to go through too much. I'm very fortunate to come from a pretty good family. Me and my brother are adopted, but I mean, at the same time, we got really lucky to have
Mm-hmm.
pretty wealthy parents. I'd say they have good jobs and they've taught us very well. At the same time, sometimes when you're in that situation, people kind of don't like you because maybe they don't have what you have, or they kind of hate on you. I did see some of that more in high school, and I think a lot of people have high school stories. But I remember an instance that my hair was too long because I was a pro snowboarder back in my day, and all the other kids in my grade thought it was kind of weird that I had long hair. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember being pinned down at lunch one time, and it got to a point where somebody just got scissors out and took out half my hair, and I
Whoa.
kind of ran away from high school, like from the high school, like obviously the area, and I just was in tears, and I just never kind of felt that way that someone could just take something away from you that fast. So that was kind of one instance. That there's always going to be a hater, if that makes sense in life. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't matter if you're the underdog or you're the big dog. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, for me in middle school, like I had really long hair and then like just people like I got called gay like all of the time. And
Oh
I
yeah.
wasn't. And so like I cut my hair and then I never ever ever grew it out ever again. And it's like you don't think about it, but you're like that kind of put me over because I'm like I don't want to have to deal with this like high school like BS. I don't want to like if people are going to treat me like this, but um yeah, man, it's people can be stupid, man. That's cool that you were doing pro skateboarding though.
Snowboarding.
Snowboarding, well, yeah, same thing. Just
I
kidding.
was in
No.
Whistler, right? So that was a good spot for it. It's pretty much
Yeah,
like one of the places in North America to go snowboarding. So
yeah,
just
that's
happened to
cool.
be that my parents wanted to move from Montreal there, and that my parents were just sick of the separatists. Like there was a lot of separatists in Quebec, like trying to make their own country. Like the province would be its own country. I don't know how many people from the states know this, but like it was a big deal. Like 20 years ago, my dad was just so sick of it. He's like, let's move away as far as we can. And of course, we go to another kind of rich area, like one of the most richest places in BC. But Whistler is just like a fairy tale. It's almost like 90210, if you can.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's pretty crazy, and 25 people in your grad class. It's pretty nuts.
Wow. Yeah, Quebec. So they like tried to secede. So that was pretty much why you moved to Vancouver.
We only moved like to the west coast because of like my dad was just so sick of it. He was very
Hmm.
against that. He wanted Canada to be its like all together, like who.
Yeah.
And then there's people in Quebec that are all like very French and like have lived in Quebec their whole life, and
Yeah.
they only speak French. They don't want people speaking English, and yeah, it's pretty
Hmm.
stupid.
Wow. Yeah. Are you guys like, because obviously America is a little divided right now. Like, and I think you guys are about to go through an election too, right? Talk a little bit about the like political landscape if you can, or kind of what like are people in Canada like stressed out? Like they just want the, are they like, what can you talk anything about that? Or is there like people talk about it all the time or,
Like about our politics or yours?
yeah, yours, like kind of, because I know there's an election coming up, right?
I mean, I think it's honestly like people say, Trump and this and whatever. And there's a lot of people up here that don't like Trump, and there's a lot of people that don't even like our prime minister. But I think that you hear a lot of like every time there's a new election, there's always like a new person or there's something new that people kind of jump on. They're like, oh, well, he's going to fix everything. And then we do elect a person or whoever it may be. And then, a year or two later, everybody hates the new elect because it's almost like people just, they promise a lot and then they don't deliver like
Mm-hmm.
100%. And some people will always
Right.
be upset by that. But people up here are very mellow about the elections compared to down there for sure.
Yeah. I think regardless of who is governing a country, you still are responsible for how you treat others. I think that's kind of a really underrated comment.
Yeah, more personal. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So what do you want, like what do you want to do? Like what are you pretty happy where you're at? Are you like, man, I really want to travel the country, like I want to go over Canada, I want to get back into snowboarding. I'm sure you still do snowboarding like kind of casually. I don't know if you're still a pro or not, but like what do you kind of want to do?
I mean, I've always wanted to get into like sports marketing or sports advertising, but
Mhm.
it's like up here is very different. There's only limited amount of jobs, and to get right into an advertising job or marketing on a high end company, so like the NHL or even
Yeah.
like Fiji Water, just something big is very hard to get right away. You need to get the experience,
Mhm.
but it's tough. So I kind of landed in sales, which is fine. I'm good at doing sales, which is what I'm doing right now, but I think one day I'd like to make that transition to learn other aspects of business world, if that makes sense. So like, yeah,
Mhm.
marketing or advertising, and one day
Yeah.
maybe even work for Lightning or like, I don't know. I've always had this passionate eye, and that's just who I've always been. I analyze commercials when I watch them, and it'd be cool to do something like that, like definitely in the sports industry. So traveling would be a great one for me. I just need to do it now. I know that down the road, if you have, family, kids,
Mhm.
more responsibilities, maybe a more responsibility at the job as well. Everybody gets busier as life goes on. That's what I've definitely learned when I've gotten older. So I think in the next 4 to 5 years, I'd like to do the whole Europe thing, or
Yeah.
Thailand or something for a couple of weeks, right? So I'm looking into that, and it's definitely in the back of my mind.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I would love to travel and do that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh man, I probably just gotta get out of my apartment. I gotta sell my car. I gotta do this stuff, and then I'm gonna get a van and just travel or something like that. But that'd be.
Yeah,
It's so awesome to just see so many different cultures and the food and the people. Like just wherever you go, it's all different.
yeah, that's exactly what I want to go traveling for, is just to kind of see what else is out there. Like even going, as I mentioned before, like Tampa and Seattle, and I've done a
Mm-hmm.
little trip to Europe, but only 3 weeks, and I'd like to go for that month or two and really experience certain restaurants and build
Yeah,
friendships and all that. So
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how mental health has impacted like you personally or people in your life or family. Like let's talk a little bit about like that. Like what can you share with your experience with that?
yeah, I mean, go back to that story I said about the hair and all that. I mean, that wasn't the
Mhm.
starting of it, but getting my hair cut off there. But there's a lot of, I guess, when you're in a teenager, your brain is in a different state, and things affect you a little more, I find, and you're not established, or you're still trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
I had one of my best friends like pretty much trying to overdose on some medication because someone was making fun of him that he's colorblind for all these years, and then in grade
Wow.
12 he tried to do that, and that was just, for me, mind blowing. But you can never judge someone until you're in their shoes. So
Mhm.
a lot of, and he was one of the most liked guys in our grad class too. So that was pretty crazy. Um, that same year, I kind of went through a little something myself, and
Yeah.
I went to, I like that was kind of the starting point, and then I kind of had a bad breakup with my first kind of girlfriend. So that's always a big one when you're young and you think that that's going to be like the end of the world when you break up. And then I kind of got into some, bit of like marijuana and stuff like that. And it made you kind of like more, I don't know, a bit more down, and it didn't help the situation. And then I lost my sponsors from snowboarding because I got caught, with this stuff in a restaurant
Wow.
on the mountain. So I lost all my sponsors. I think I was 18 or 17. And then that kind of pretty much led to like a pretty bad depression for about 6 or 7 months. Like I didn't leave the house. My friends all knew me as this outgoing guy who wanted to go for beers on
Yeah.
Friday. I was getting knocks on the door and, let's get him out. Let's get him out. And I didn't want to go anywhere. And then that turned into, after that, it turned into like more of a high. So it was like a bipolar thing going on. And I didn't even know what I was saying anymore and certain things. So it was a very, very big, for about a couple of years there, like that was just some years from my life. And it was just a full mental health thing. So, went to the hospital and, went down that path and got better. And then I haven't had one episode in 12 years. So it's been pretty crazy.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit more about how you got out. So obviously going to the hospital was helpful, and I've been through the hospital system as well. I was spent 6 weeks in inpatient and learning about coping skills, being in a room full of people who have had the thoughts, have had the addictions, have had the plans, and like you're in the room full of people who know what you're going through.
For sure.
So, what can you talk anything about what helped you get out, and whether that's just going to the hospital was really helpful, or was counseling really helpful, or did you get on any medication or research that? Did you? One of the things I really want to know is how did other people, like, what did someone do to you where you're like, that really helped? Like the knocking on the doors, or like texting you, or like just calling you, buying you groceries for the week, something like that. What was something that really helped you get out?
I mean, I think one of the biggest stories that came from that, and obviously 2 years of that was not good for my parents and all my friends, and people were worried. But I learned a lot about who my real friends were when that kind of happened. I was in the hospital for 6 months or something in Vancouver. I was living at Whistler at the time, so it's about a 2-hour drive. But I had about 3 or 4 people show up, and I thought it was going to be 20, 25. And when you're kind of going through that, you'd expect all your good friends to be there, and some of my best ones didn't even come say hi. So I think you learn a lot from that. And then I guess that the flip side of that, there was a guy that I was never really fond of in my grad class who was, a bit more quiet and just played basketball at lunch and, didn't chase girls or went for beers on Friday. But he actually showed up to the hospital and brought me like my favorite meal from McDonald's. I forget what it was exactly, but and then now, like to this day, we're actually going to a Canucks game tomorrow night, and we're best friends. So it's kind of crazy how some of the worst times can turn into the best times. And for the things that helped me a lot were obviously the medication, and I had to get hospitalized. So obviously that was, there's nothing I can do about that. And that is going to help. But the big one was like not drinking as much, like getting a lot of sleep, maybe getting to more sports, things to get your mind off, what you're kind of going through. And there's always someone who's going to help you out. You just have to reach out and ask, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that's really good. If I, like, let's say I'm going through something like really tough right now, what would you say to me? Like, what's your first go-to thing that you're going to do? Like, if we're best friends, or like we're really good friends, and I'm like, hey man, I'm really struggling, or I've got XYZ going on.
I mean, I've been through it a few times, but back in my day. But at the same time, if you're saying it's something like super mental, it really does. It's different for me to help you than like somebody else that's never been through it. So I'm kind of like not cheating, but like I know exactly what you're kind of going through. When you're going through like mental things, it's really in your head, and you think that people are always fine, but there's always something that's going on in somebody's head. So you can never judge them for that. So, your mind's blurry, or you're not thinking straight. So I would probably just reach out to you with a text or a call, or, come knock on your door, like some of my friends were trying to do there before, and maybe go for coffee and just kind of chat and then see where you're at. And if it gets to a point where you need more help than just me talking to you, then you need to go like reach out to a center, or like somebody who's professionally there to help you in that way. And there's like, maybe you needed these meds for 2 years, but you just avoided it because you thought you were going to be weak. But people who have mental illnesses are not weak. They're just you can't even describe the feeling of it when you're going through it. It's just something that's happening to you, and you can't really do anything about it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes there's a component to it. Like just depression can actually, I don't know, it just, there's a physical aspect to it, not only just mental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
The working out thing, I totally empathize with that. Like I've over the last 3 months, like I've lost 32 pounds, and
Oh
like
wow.
I've cut my diet. Like I work out 3 times a week. I get that runner's high. Like the body confidence has increased. Like I still have some of the same issues, but like in that area, I'm like, I feel really good. Like, and that has helped, like kind of just a little bit, even if it's a little bit, it's still worth it. Right. But
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting your mind off things, and at the same time, you're not even really getting your mind off. Well, you are, but you're kind of
yeah.
getting yourself in a better state. So in the end, now you've lost weight and you feel better, and now you're kind of addicted to it. So you want to kind of keep doing it, right?
Right.
It's almost like that.
Yeah.
And then one point that I forgot to mention about mental health there, just in case we kind
Yeah.
of switch topics, is um, I've never tried any drug except marijuana. So the crazy part is like, a lot of these kids nowadays, it's like, it's not like when I was in high school. Like in high school, kissing a girl was kind of crazy. Now things are like, oh, you have to get laid, or like, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's drugs
Yeah.
that are so much more, like people are doing drugs at like 14, 15 nowadays. I would say that drugs are one of the worst things for mental health. It really does screw up your system, like in the long term. And then as I said, like, when you're a teen, you're going through these changes with your body and your mind, and drugs are probably the worst thing for it. So when I was kind of saying that I was doing weed in grade 12, I was doing it almost every day. And then I kind of cold turkeyed it because I figured out that it was just not right. I felt anxious and it was just not good for my brain. It could have led a little bit to what happened, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. That's smart to
yeah.
kind of cut that stuff out. Um, well, do you have, we'll kind of wrap up a little bit here.
Yeah.
What's your motto? Do you have a motto or a piece of advice that somebody gave you where you're like, that's really good. That was really helpful. Whether it was practical or just like one of those, put it on a t-shirt type of quotes, if you know what I'm talking about.
I think I've definitely only lived by like one real quote, which is everything happens for a reason. And I kind of only live by that is because it really does make sense. Like there's certain things that you can't really control, and then there's things that you can work really hard to kind of get better at. Like if you want to be a pro hockey player, you might work harder than an NHL player, but in the end, maybe you just don't have the skills for it. But then maybe
Uh-huh.
in the end, maybe you're going to be an announcer and you're going to be announcing NHL games, right? So I think everything that happens for a reason is really true. And, if you miss something, it might be an opportunity down the road for something else.
Yeah, that's good. All right, now we're gonna do quick hit five fun stuff, and then we're gonna wrap up with our last kind of fun thing we'll do.
Sounds good.
So, if you get to go back in time to any event in history and watch it happen, what would you do?
What would I do for like if I wanted to attend that event or?
Well, yeah, you can attend it. Maybe if you want to change it, I guess. But it's more just like, oh, I want to go see, 1969, the spaceship go up there, or like I want to go
Oh,
see,
okay.
Roman Coliseum, go see a fight somewhere, or like you get to see anything you want.
I would probably say I'm kind of looking on my patio right now on my deck here, but the Sidney Crosby Golden Goal. I was obviously a little bit younger. I didn't have the $800 to get in the door, but that would be one that would be crazy because who knows when it's going to be on Canadian soil again, and then winning the gold medal and all that. But I was watching it on TV, which is probably 95% of the country was. But that's one that I would love to be in the building. That you can't compare watching a game on TV than being in the building, right? So
Oh, for sure.
I would probably pick that one. It was just such a big iconic moment for this country, and it was in my
Yeah.
backyard, right? So right there.
What's the most overrated city in Canada and why?
I don't want to bash too hard, but I'd say Toronto for sure.
Wow, that's my favorite city. I mean, it's the only one I've been to,
Okay.
but
Well, I mean,
that's
it's an
funny.
amazing city. I've been there a few times, but I
Yeah.
think everybody in Canada, this is just a little side thing, but everybody likes to hate Toronto just because they're trying to be like the New York of the US, I guess. And I don't know. People don't like the Leafs. People don't like certain teams there. And I don't know. I think Toronto would be like the most overrated. And the best one would be nearby would be Montreal for sure. It would be like the total opposite of Toronto.
The next question is If you could be any inanimate object, what would you be?
Inanimate? What does
Yeah,
that mean? I don't even know what that means.
like a lamp or like
Oh, I was going to
a
say something that's not moving.
snowboard
I was
or
going to
yeah.
guess that, but oh, definitely not a chair. That just seems like a weird one. Um, maybe a car, I guess. You can kind of see places when you're not really alive.
Oh, what is it?
A car,
A car. Oh, that's good.
just because we're kind of rolling around all the time, right? But I can't really think of another one.
Yeah.
But
I might be a cloud or well, yeah, a cloud's not alive. Yeah, so
yeah,
maybe
I
a
was going to say
cloud
cloud might not work either.
or a plane,
Yeah, there you go,
maybe.
plane.
Traveling is just such a big part of me, Just love seeing different stuff. What is the one thing you love most about yourself?
I don't know. I can't answer those kind of questions because I maybe I would just if I have to really say one, I'm very kind of like
Mm-hmm.
compassionate and very like wear my heart
Yeah,
on my sleeve. That's probably one. Like I've always been like that, and I think that's what I get that from my parents.
yeah,
Don't like, as I said, it comes back to being the underdog, almost underdog in the sports team. I don't like people that are just bullies. So when I see that, I can't even like look at it. It's that bad for me
mm-hmm.
because people are all different, right? Can't judge somebody.
Yeah. What's a famous person that you really like who they are as a person, not just because they're like excuse me, not just because they're like really successful or whatever, like they're actually a really good person.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I find like there's like maybe like a guy like Jerome Gemra or I don't know people like
Okay.
I'm trying to think of hockey players, but there is
Mm-hmm.
some guys out there that just are just class acts. Like they're just
Mm-hmm.
that's how they're on the street, I guess, as well. When he retires, the whole city is waiting for it to happen. When somebody else retires that's just bit stuck up and was okay at hockey, they're almost forgotten. It's all about personality and how like you treat people. And I think Jerome McGinley was one of those people that was very very nice person.
Yeah, that's good.
Beyond right.
Yeah, that's. I mean, my guy would be like, oh, what's his face?
I have to really
Never
think
mind.
about that after though. So it takes me kind of a rapid fire, but
It's okay. Tony Dungy's a good one. The Colts coach. He's a good guy.
there you go. Sports again.
Sports ball.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the last part, man. What I've been doing with people is it's a segment where you have to say something about someone else, like family member, your girlfriend, your friend, your family member. You're gonna encourage them slash thank them for like how they've affected you, and then you're gonna share the episode with them. You don't have to like tag them on social media, but just like show them like that. So you have to show them what you say about them. But you just pick a person and say like, "Hey, thanks so much for blah blah blah," or "This is my favorite part about you."
Okay. Well, can it be like persons, like mom and dad? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Can't really
yeah.
pick one, right?
No, it's okay.
Like, I guess I'd pick them, and then what do you want me to say about like what I like about them or what they've done, or
Yeah, it's like things that you're really thankful for that they've done. Like, kind of like I really like how you've instilled confidence in me, or just how they've directly affected you.
okay, yeah, for sure. I mean, it all comes down to like the first moment, obviously, of them like adopting me, but that was like a big adopting anybody is a big task, right? Like that's huge. But just the fact that I got lucky to be with them, and then the way they brought me up was always the right way, and I really appreciated that. They made me obviously the person I am today, which is, I think I'm an okay person. So they've done a pretty good job. They've done everything they can for me, and I know that sometimes they weren't financially stable or they went through certain times themselves, which every family does, but they were always there 100%. So if I could bring that to anybody or like my own child one day, that would be like half as good as them. I'd be like so stoked.
Awesome. Well, hey man, thanks so much. I know we got to go. You got to go win a baseball game.
Yeah,
So, but hey man, it's really awesome talking with you. It's our first international call, but we've been kind of knowing each other for a long time, actually, here and there. But we'll stay in touch, man. And it's truly an honor to have you be a part of what I'm trying to do.
yeah, for sure. I want to support you, and I know that this is obviously going in a very positive direction. So this is awesome, and I'm glad to be your first Canadian podcast member here.
All right. Yeah. I can't wait to have you on again.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, man. Well, hey, go out and win that for me. All right. Do
All right, I
one good
shall.
thing today and win the game.
Sounds good.
All right. See you, man.
Okay, bye.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from the Classic Buffalo Podcast. Wanted to take a second to talk about Anchor, how I'm actually making this podcast happen. Super happy that I'm partnering with them. So, Anchor is actually the easiest way to make a podcast. I've done my research. This is basically the best way. I promise. It's going to give you everything you need in one place for free, which is the best part. It's going to have tools, so you don't really need a fancy schmancy recording guy. Anchor's going to be helping you out there, and then they're going to distribute the podcast everywhere to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everything. And then you can also make money with basically no minimum listenership, which is kind of rare. So hop on Anchor as soon as you can. Thanks. And we're done. We just got done with a short phone call with Francois. I've been swamped. He's kind of really busy. We squeezed in a phone call as best as we could. And I have no regrets. I've actually sold him a couple things through Vintage Indie before. We've kind of followed each other for a while. And that's where, again, a big chunk of the people that are on this are coming from, which is actually kind of cool. Because I've become friends with a lot of you guys through Vintage Indie, and then kind of like, hey, I want to share your story. So that was just kind of interesting. Again, just actually this past weekend, I went to Cincinnati and I met another friend that I had sold something to and just had been DMing with. And they've been following me for 2 years. And so I got to hang out with them a little bit. It's kind of nuts. So it's really interesting how this is all panning out, where I'm kind of converting my audience into not only from my friends, but just kind of converting that audience and actually relating with the people who supported me through Vintage Indie and just kind of know who I am. And then, like, of course, I want to be a part of the podcast. I've actually today, as I recorded it, I was reaching out to people and like just a bunch. And now, like, my calendar is like full of like I've got like 2 next week, but like I've got probably like 2 every single day for the rest of the week, and it's Monday. So, man, we're cranking on all cylinders. I might have so much content we might be able to put 2 episodes out a week. I'm just like being conservative. I wanted to do like once a week, but I might be able to do 2 a week, which would be sick. But today was kind of hard. It was a Monday. I had a panic attack at work, so that was fun. I just was overwhelmed. I was just random stuff that I was thinking about, and then it was right around my lunchtime, so that was kind of nice. But I just like, oh my god, I needed to like get out. It's just the way anxiety works. Is just your mind starts going and going, and it's really hard to stop. And you can either convert it into depression, or you go into one of your coping skills, or just it's in survival mode when you have a panic attack, Just things get overwhelming and you can shut down, which is kind of what I did a little bit. Or just I put on one of my go-to songs, and then I just zonked out a little bit for a while until the thoughts went away. But I tried to convert that energy into scheduling times to talk with you guys. So one of the biggest concerns with starting this was basically, one of the reasons why I quit was because I was running out of emotional energy to continually support you guys. And I'm worried that would happen again. But I'm hoping that it won't happen, because I'm really, with this, I'm focusing on you guys. I'm trying to, at least. And share your story, empower you. I'm also trying to figure out how to explain to other people what I'm trying to do. When someone says like, well, what are you interviewing me about? Or, it's not like people are like upset, like, why would you want to interview me? But, I am interviewing everyday people. There's nothing like you have to do something crazy for me, like, oh, I have to interview. It's just, I know you, or I've heard of you or whatever, and I just want to share your story. I'm sure, and everybody's had one so far. Something's happened in someone's life that was somewhat difficult. They've overcome it in some aspects. They're still going through it in other aspects. And you saw that probably with, Francois and stuff. And he told me some stuff off the air a little bit about what's going on, / just stuff that he didn't necessarily want to talk about, but for the most part, he's pretty vulnerable, which is great. And love talking with him. It's cool to have a Canadian person be a part of this, because you can have culture differentiating from city to city, but this is like an entire country, right? Like, it's a little different. But, and even when you grow up and you have all of the things given to you financially and materialistically, you can still struggle relationally, which I definitely empathize with. A lot of times people would say to me, because I grew up probably upper middle class maybe, or at least middle class. But growing up that way, people would say, oh, you're just entitled. Like, why? Or even today, it just would, like, you don't have a reason to be depressed. I hate hearing that, because it's like, a lot of the times where the depression would come from would be my past trauma, or it would come from, current relationship type issues with different types of people. And it's like, other people's view of success is translated onto you, and you're like, that's not what I want. I could have the nice car, the nice apartment, and a stable job, but if I'm like extremely unhappy, like, I'd trade it all just to be happy, And some people don't really understand that. They only get a bird's eye view, if that. And it just was interesting that, especially when Francois talked about the hair aspect, that's another thing that I obviously hadn't talked about until now. But just like, when I was in 6th grade, I had a comb over. Like, it was just, you run your hand through it and you comb it over to the side. I had kind of like, around that time, I just had a lot of long hair. And if you do one of those like face swaps or whatever, like on Snapchat, it has the filter. I look exactly like my mom, where you can switch your gender to see what you would look like. I look exactly like my mom. Like, I'd have my mom's hair and all that stuff. So, but in 6th and 7th grade, I think it was 6th grade, I had a comb over. 7th grade, I got made fun of it for having long hair and being called gay. And the unfortunate part was that was around the timing of me moving to a new school system, so I was trying to make friends. I changed my hair, like I cut all my hair off, not all of it, right? But I never had long hair after I got made fun of and called gay. I just never did, because I didn't want to be this girly looking dude. And now I'm bald because I got somewhat bad hair traits. I have my grandpa's hair, where it kind of grows on the sides, but there's nothing on top, which is the exact opposite of what I want. Because like, I want little on the sides and then a lot on top. I wanted to do almost like the Macklemore, but got thinner and thinner, and then I was like, I'm tired of seeing my bald spot. I'm cutting it all off, and now it barely grows back. So, and I'm in actually, like, I don't even know I think it's been like a year, maybe, where I've like completely been bald, and I'm like, I haven't even hit the year mark, I guess, of like having pictures and people getting used to me being bald and stuff. I'm at the point still where college people don't know, like, oh man, I totally forget, like, you don't have hair anymore. Or people don't recognize me. Even somewhat related, I was actually out with a group of friends, and they hadn't seen me in like months or something. And I've lost 32 pounds too. So it's like, they're like, holy cow, I don't even, recognize you. So anyway, the whole like physical appearance and being bullied for that, I was totally like empathizing with that. It sucks, man. If people want to pick on you, they will pick anything they can find, whether it's personality-wise, the things you say, the way you look. People will look for what they're looking for. They'll find what they're looking for. That's the right phrasing. I've been kind of discouraged recently, but like I've said many times over, not many times yet, I haven't done this enough. I've only done a couple episodes, but my point is like, each time I do this, I feel a little bit better. Knowing that I don't know why I feel good when I do this, but I do. And it gives me energy or hope knowing like, oh man, I'm like, scheduling wise, I'm like, oh, I got to do 2 interviews tomorrow or whatever. But at the same time, when I get them done, I'm like, oh yeah, I got 2 more weeks of content, or I got, a people's story. I don't know, man. It's just, and then I want to fast forward to like, and then I want to post the episode tomorrow, but obviously it's like, it's going to post in what's today's today when I'm filming or recording it, it's like my birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday to me, Ryan, 26-year-old. But this episode will come out like late October. So like I'm recording episodes, and at the one a week, it's going to be, we'll be into like December before we know it. So I might do 2 a week just so I can get more content out there, get more people's stories. I don't know, it's just so cool. So cool sharing stories, man. And I'm just pushing through it. I've been having a rough time. Tomorrow's my birthday. Having family difficulties / just trying to get stuff planned for my birthday. And, everybody wants to have a good birthday, so I'm hoping I do. So anyway, Francois, you're awesome, man. It's good to just kind of learn more about another culture, like country-wise, and to know that if you're rich or you're poor, you can still deal with bullying and you can still overcome it and still have positive people in your life, which I think he talked about that. And the for a reason comment was good, of just no matter what, doing something can lead into somewhat similar, maybe different than what you initially thought going into it, but something good did come out of something. So good or bad, keep on going. Well, that's all I got. My name's Ryan. I'm glad you're alive. I love you. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to share your story, shallow or deep, let's go swimming. I think that's like one of my favorite things to say now. Like shallow or deep, let's go swimming in the conversation pond. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, guys. DM me on Instagram at Classic Buffalo if you want to share your story or just check in and say what's up. All right, have a great week.